I'm a volunteer with Forum for Understanding Prisons.
Okay, so what brings you guys out here today?
Well, we're out here to protest conditions at the Columbia Correctional Institution. Back in October, there were a few incidents where guards provoked unstable prisoners and by calling them racial epithets, including the N-word and boy, and then they attacked those guards. And then there were 3 separate incidents of that same thing happening: guards harassing people, provoking violence, and then the facility went on lockdown. And after the 3rd incident, it went on extended lockdown starting November 8th with really, really brutal restrictions and conditions. People were denied showers for multiple weeks. They weren't given any hot food. Anybody who complained was sent to the hole. For like very, very minor complaints, we were sent to hole for disrespect of the warden. On December 3rd, a man named Larry Bracey died because of medical neglect. He is somebody who the guards had already kind of singled out because he had defended himself previously, and he was serving the 29th year of his 30-year sentence. So he had spent years in solitary confinement. He had an asthma attack. He was asking for medical help for 2 days. Nobody came down. Nobody came to see him, and then he died. And so to us, he was killed by medical neglect. That's intentional, and he was targeted because of, previously defending himself and making himself an enemy of the staff there. Racism is rampant at Columbia Correctional Institution. The amount of harassment and really petty rule enforcement against targeted people is very common there. It has increased greatly since the new warden, Susan Novak, has come in there, and we're just getting lots and lots of reports over the last 2 months about these really awful things that have been happening there and that she's been signing off on.
What are you trying to get out of today?
Yeah, we have 5 demands. First, that the DOC stop doing lockdowns like this. This lockdown was not justified. By statute, they have certain reasons they can put a prison on lockdown. None of those reasons apply for a 2-month lockdown after a single violent incident involving one person. The second is that they lift all the restrictions that are currently in place. The lockdown was officially lifted on December 22nd, but it's continued. They're still on modified movement status, so a lot of the restrictions are still in place now. The third demand is that they don't force feed hunger strikers. There are 2 people in Columbia and multiple people elsewhere in the state who went on a hunger strike. One of them, Odell Miller, was demanding that Warden Susan Novak be fired after just 10 days of refusing food as a protest. They started force feeding him. And force feeding somebody is incredibly painful. It's a form of torture, and it's designed to break the protest, not to actually make sure somebody doesn't die. It increases your chances of medical problems. You can puncture someone's esophagus doing it. Letting somebody starve for a few days and then filling their stomach with Ensure can actually cause a heart attack. So it's not about the wellness of the person, it's about breaking the protest. What other demands did we have?
On the fourth one.
Yeah. We had ending the restrictions, no more lockdowns. Training for the staff there, de-escalation training and anti-racist training, because racism is so bad in Columbia. And we have talked with Magda Fesahaya, who is the administrator of the Division of Adult Institutions. She said that she wants to do that kind of thing, but she gets pushback from staff. And so staff who are unwilling to take anti-racist training and unwilling to take de-escalation training shouldn't be working in these prisons, especially when the culture there involves so much racial violence from the staff against the people who are held there. No, that's good.
Why do you feel the need, or why do all of you feel the need to come out here and be a voice for these prisoners?
We've been raising issues about this, and there's no response. We've been getting so much mail from inside the prisons. There's a situation, I believe, going on right now where there are some people who work in the DOC and the new governor. They talk about wanting to make reforms happen, and so then the staff is opposed to those reforms, and they are making things worse in order to prevent that reform from happening. And meanwhile, the reformers, the people who say they're for reform, who work at the top in here, or the governor, have not taken decisive, concrete actions to actually make anything happen. So we're in this limbo where the staff feels threatened that there might be these reforms that come in and that make their jobs harder, or I don't know what exactly they feel threatened by. The sadists and the racists feel threatened that they won't be able to keep torturing people and acting that way. But the other staff, I don't understand why they don't want to also just have a less crowded, more stable, better working environment. So I would hope that they would get on board with some of the changes that we're trying to bring. But it seems like those really entrenched, there's a lot of Trump supporters, a lot of really entrenched people who are pushing back against any kind of progressive reform going on.
Would you say that you guys are pretty fed up?
Oh, completely. Yes. Larry Racy, when he died, the sheriff's department in Columbia did an investigation, and we had received letters from people who saw that he was requesting help for 2 days, and that he, was denied that help. And that the warden's policy was to not give help unless there's a dire emergency. And so we took those letters, we called the sheriff's department, we got a hold of the sheriff, Mike Haberly, who was investigating this, gave him the names of those people, asked him to go talk to them to complete his investigation. He refused. It was really hard to get a hold of him. We finally got a voicemail from him where he said, we've concluded our investigation. This is not, we're not going to talk to those people. You can send us the letters if you want. But that's not like clear and decisive answer to somebody who died because of medical neglect. That I believe in, that there's evidence was actually intentional on the part of staff, and the sheriff's department is not investigating it. Judges are complicit in the force feeding. When somebody goes on hunger strike, they have to get a judge to sign off on an order. A judge named Todd Hepler from Columbia County again signed off on an order to force feed and torture Odell Miller, and then sealed the order so that we can't actually see the record of it, but we know from inside what it is that's going on. So all the other channels to try to have some oversight and accountability, including Secretary Carr and Mopta and Governor Evers, have been tried, and nothing has happened. So we're here to say, no, we're not just going to politely email you anymore. We're going to be here. We're going to make this an issue. You're going to have to answer these questions. You're going to have to meet these demands.